I'm Shannon Cagle, and welcome back to American Graduate Day on WFYI. Joining us today in the studio, we have Vince Bertram, President and CEO for Project Lead the Way, Nancy Stark, Education Director at Prairie, and Michelle Winkelman, Director of Outreach for the Indianapolis Arts Center. Vince, we talk a lot about STEM education in Indiana these days. Adding the A for art in is important, though. Why is that?
Well, there are a number of reasons. When we think about STEM education for us, it's really an integrated approach. It's not necessarily the acronym itself or a discrete discipline, but rather an integrated activity project-based approach to learning so the students understand how all these disciplines connect to their world, and we make learning relevant for students. So this isn't for us, in STEM education isn't at the exclusion of art by any means. In fact, it's very inclusive, not only of art, but many other disciplines as well.
So there's a real connectivity there that you think binds these disciplines together.
Absolutely, and I think it's essential learning for students to understand those connections.
Very good. Now, Nancy, at Prairie, we often have a tendency to think of that as a place where history comes alive. Right. But you folks have been very integral in the idea of STEAM when it comes to having students come through. Can you tell me about that?
Definitely. We've had a science initiative over the past few years, and it's culminating right now with our Create Connect exhibit, where we do history. We tell the stories of Indiana's past, but in the context of science concepts. So we look at flight and electricity and wind power and invention, and we have hands-on activities that students could get involved in, make and test, getting into the design process and technology. But then we also tell the Indiana stories that connect to those concepts in Indiana.
Very good. So it's that connectivity that we were talking about completely. Yeah. Michelle, talk a little bit about what is happening at the Arts Center in terms of making these connections.
So much is happening at the Arts Center. We have on-site programs that include classes for youth, all ages. They can start coming when they're, I think, 2 and 3 years old with a parent, all the way up through high school. And we have a teen art council now that's meeting. So this is a place where self-directed teens who are involved in art at their school can engage with others that are also involved in those activities, share ideas, and come together and talk about why art is important to them, important to their community, and do more with it. We also do a lot of outreach programming out in the community, so we have after-school programs and Saturday programs for kids that are have limited access or are in low-income areas or at-risk youth, so that they can also access arts programming. And it's so important to include art in a comprehensive education for the same reasons Vince was talking about. It really helps students make connections so they can express something that's inside of them, but they can also relate to the world around them through what they're producing. And art is really an exchange of ideas in that way. Also immersive in kind of the project-based study that Nancy and Vince were also talking about. You can get in depth into a subject and put that out there for someone else.
That's very cool. Nancy, do you find that children are hungry for this sort of interaction in terms of making the connectivity we're talking about here?
I think so. Just looking at the Create Connect exhibit and other things where they get to do hands-on things, and students will youth spend a lot of time doing things there and focusing on what's making it work, how can I make it better, which is exactly the kind of process we're looking at and trying to encourage, is really that the curiosity, the critical thinking, and trying to put it all together.
Michelle, I was going to ask you, do you find that that children, when they start at these things at a young age, are better at expressing themselves as they are kind of growing up through the education process?
I think so. I think the arts teach a lot of mindful skills, so persistence and resiliency and communication, expression certainly. So those kinds of things help students navigate their world, communicate with others, feel more confident, probably speaking up in class, and they help them stay engaged with other subjects as well. So all of those skills kind of build a stronger individual. There's a lot of research to support that as well.
Vince, when we're talking about student success, because our goal here with the American Graduate Program is to create even more student success, what kind of success do we see when we're tying in all of these areas, the STEAM areas, in a kid when they get into high school, for instance?
Well, students are hungry for relevance. They want to understand that the work they're doing means something. And I think it's incumbent upon us as educators to help them understand and give them relevancy to their learning so that they know what they're working on today is going to lead to something in the future. And it's really about careers and having a standard of life and a quality of life that we enjoy to make sure our students enjoy that same opportunity. So it's critical for us to provide those kind of educational experiences for them, not just in high school, but starting very early. And when students are engaged in their learning, we're going to see more graduates, we're going to see more students going on to post-secondary education, and more students prepared for the workforce.
We need you at home to get involved as well. Call the toll-free number and go to these websites to find out more. Become an American Graduate Champion and make a difference.